Dr. Lisa Martinez rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the computer screen again. It was 3 in the morning at the Arecibo Deep Space Monitoring Station. The coffee had gone cold hours ago, but she kept drinking it anyway. Most nights were quiet. Like this. Just the usual background noise from space, and the hum of the big radio, dishes outside. But tonight was different. The signal came in weak at first. Lisa almost missed it among all the other static and noise. She leaned forward in her chair and turned up the volume. There it was again, a pattern. Not random noise, but something that repeated itself over and over. "Jake," she called to her partner across the room. "Come look at this." Jake Sullivan pushed back from his desk and walked over. He was the best technician at the station, and Lisa trusted his judgment more than anyone else's. Jake put on his headphones and listened to the signal for a few minutes. "That's not natural," he said quietly. "Something made this signal on purpose." Lisa felt her heart beat faster. In 12 years of working at the station, she had never found anything like this. The signal was coming from deep space, farther than any human had ever traveled. She ran the signal through the computer to clean it up and make it clearer. What they heard next changed everything. The signal contained numbers, mathematical patterns that any intelligent species would understand. Prime numbers, then the value of pi, then more complex equations. But there was something else mixed in with the math. Something that made Lisa's skin feel cold. "It's a distress call," she whispered. Jake nodded grimly. "The pattern keeps repeating the same sequence. Math first, then what looks like coordinates, then this." He played a section of the signal that sounded different from the rest. Even through the static, they could hear the desperation in it. Lisa worked through the night to decode the message. The coordinates pointed to a star system called Kepler 442, about 1,400 light-years from Earth. The math was complex, but she had studied alien communication theory for years. By morning, she had translated enough to understand the basic message. Beings calling themselves the Valhari were under attack. Their world was being destroyed by something called the Dominion Fleet. 3 billion lives hung in the balance, and they had sent their cry for help into the dark, hoping someone, somewhere, would hear them and care enough to respond. At 7 in the morning, Lisa called Admiral Patricia Knox at Space Command. Knox was known for being tough but fair. She listened to the entire explanation without interrupting once. "Play the signal for me," Knox said over the video link. Lisa played the cleaned-up version of the message. Even through the static, the desperation was clear. Mathematical proof of intelligence, followed by star charts, followed by what could only be described as a scream for help that echoed across the galaxy. "How long ago was this sent?" Knox asked. "Based on the distance and the speed of light, about 4 months ago," Lisa replied. "Admiral, they might already be dead." Knox was quiet for a long moment. "Send me everything you have. All the translations, all the technical data, everything. I need to brief the President and the Joint Chiefs." 2 hours later, Lisa found herself in a secure video conference with the highest levels of the military and government. General Frank Cooper, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, looked skeptical. "This could be a hoax," Cooper said, "or a trap. We have no way of knowing if these aliens are telling the truth." "The technical data checks out," Lisa argued. "The star charts are accurate. The mathematics is consistent. This level of detail would be impossible to fake." Knox studied the data on her tablet. The message includes specifications for faster-than-light communication and propulsion. Technology we've been working on for decades, but never perfected. If this is fake, whoever made it knows more about our classified research than they should. President Harris appeared on the main screen from the White House. She looked tired, but alert. "What are our options, Admiral?" "We have 5 warships equipped with experimental jump drives," Knox replied. They use Defiance, Guardian, Retribution, Lightning, and Thunder. They were built for deep space patrol, but they've never been tested at this range. How long would it take to reach this Kepler system? The president asked. 3 weeks, if the coach jump drives work as designed, Knox said. Maybe longer if they don't. General Cooper shook his head. Madam President, we're talking about sending our entire deep space fleet to help people we've never met. Based on a radio signal, it could be a disaster. The president was quiet for a moment. Then she looked directly into the camera. Admiral. Knox, how many people did Dr. Martinez say were in danger? 3 billion, Madam President. 3 billion lives. The president closed her eyes briefly. If someone sent Earth a distress call, what would we want them to do? Knox straightened in her chair. We'd want them to come, Madam President. Then that's what we're going to do. Admiral, prepare your fleet. We leave for Kepler 442 as soon as possible. Within 6 hours, the 5 warships of Earth's deep space fleet were preparing for launch. Captain Ryan Blake, commander of the flagship UES Defiance, received his orders directly from Admiral Knox. Captain, you're about to make history, Knox told him over the secure channel. This is humanity's first response to an alien distress call. The whole galaxy will judge us by what you do out there. Blake nodded grimly. He was a veteran of the Mars conflicts and the asteroid mining wars. He had seen enough death and destruction to last several lifetimes, but this was different. This time, humans weren't fighting each other. They were racing across the galaxy to help complete strangers. What if we're too late? Blake asked. Knox's expression was hard. Then we make sure whoever did this to the Valhari never does it to anyone else. The 5 ships launched from Earth orbit at midnight, their jump drives charging for the long journey ahead. Dr. Lisa Martinez watched from the control room as they disappeared in flashes of blue light, carrying humanity's answer to a cry for help from the stars. For the first time in human history, Earth's warships were heading out not to conquer or explore, but to save lives. The question was whether they would arrive in time to matter. The jump through space felt like falling through ice water. Captain Ryan Blake gripped his command chair as the U-East Defiance emerged from the blue tunnel of twisted space-time. Around him, his crew worked at their stations, checking systems and making sure the ship had survived the journey in one piece. Jump complete, Captain, reported Navigation Officer Lucy Chun. All systems green. We're in normal space. Blake nodded and opened a communication channel to the other ships. One by one, the rest of the fleet reported in. Captain Amy Foster from the UE's Guardian sounded relieved. Captain Carlos Rivera from the UE's Retribution was already running weapon diagnostics. The 2 destroyer captains, Danny Walsh of the Lightning and Helen Brooks of the Thunder, confirmed their ships were ready for action. How long until we reach the Kepler system? Blake asked. 18 days at maximum burn, sir, Chun replied. The jump drives got us most of the way, but we still have a long trip ahead. Blake settled back in his chair. 18 days to prepare for whatever they would find when they arrived. He hoped it would be enough time. Dr. Elena Vasquez worked in her laboratory deep inside the Defiance. As the fleet's xenobiologist, her job was to understand the Valhari before they met them face to face. She had been studying the alien transmissions for 3 days now, learning everything she could about this species that had called across the galaxy for help. The Valhari seemed to be peaceful by nature. Their messages spoke of science, art, and trade. They had no weapons mentioned in their communications, no military ranks or battle strategies. Dr. Vasquez found this both fascinating and worrying. How did a species survive without any way to defend itself? She called up Captain Blake on the internal communication system. Captain, I need to brief you on what I've learned about the Valhari. Blake appeared on her screen a few minutes later. What can you tell me, Doc? They're completely peaceful, Captain. I don't think they even understand the concept of war the way we do. Their language has no words for military ranks, battle tactics, or weapons of mass destruction. They seem to solve all their problems through discussion and cooperation. Blake frowned. That explains why they're losing this fight. What about these Dominion forces that are attacking them? Dr. Vasquez pulled up another file. That's where things get scary. The Valhari described the Dominion as destroyers who move from world to world, taking everything useful and killing everything else. They don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. They just consume and move on. How many worlds have they hit? Blake asked. According to the Valhari, at least 6 civilizations have been completely wiped out. Billions of lives lost. The Valhari are just the latest target. Blake was quiet for a moment. Keep studying those transmissions, Doc. I want to know everything about both species before we get there. 3 decks below, Lieutenant Commander Tony Kim was having problems with the weapon systems. The railguns and plasma cannons had never been tested in real combat. They worked fine in simulations, but Kim knew that real battle was very different from computer models. He crawled through the narrow maintenance tunnel that ran along the main gun deck. Cables and power conduits lined the walls, all leading to the massive weapons that could punch holes through asteroid-sized targets. At least they were supposed to be able to do that. "Hey Kim, you find the problem yet?" called Petty Officer Steve Martinez from the other end of the tunnel. "Maybe," Kim replied. "The power coupling on Gun 3 is loose. If we get into a real fight, it might fail after a few shots." Kim worked with his tools to tighten the connection. Every weapon on the ship had to work perfectly. There would be no second chances if they faced this Dominion fleet. He thought about the 3 billion Valhari counting on them and worked faster. Meanwhile, Marine Colonel Sandra Price was training her troops in the cargo bay. The Marines had practiced fighting in space, on planets and inside enemy ships. But they had never fought aliens before. "Listen up," Price shouted to her Marines. "We don't know what these Dominion forces look like or how they fight, but we know they're killers. They've destroyed 6 worlds and they're working on a 7th. That means we hit them hard and we hit them fast." Sergeant Bobby Thompson raised his hand. "Colonel, what if the aliens are bigger than us or stronger?" Price smiled grimly. "Then we shoot them more time, Sergeant. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for people we've never met, on a world most of us can't even pronounce. But they asked for help, and we came. That means something." The Marines nodded and went back to their training. They practiced clearing ship corridors, defending against boarding parties, and fighting in zero gravity. Price watched them work and felt proud. These men and women were ready to fight for strangers on the other side of the galaxy. As the days passed, the fleet moved closer to their destination. Long-range sensors began picking up energy signatures from the Kepler system. What they detected made everyone nervous. "Captain," called sensor operator Janet Wells, "I'm reading massive energy discharges from the direction of Kepler 442. It looks like orbital bombardment." Blake studied the readings on his screen. Huge amounts of energy were being fired at the planet's surface. Cities were being destroyed from space. "How long has this been going on?" "Based on the energy patterns, I'd say several days, sir. Maybe weeks." Blake felt his jaw tighten. They were still 2 weeks away, and the Valhari were dying while Earth's fleet raced to help them. He opened the channel to all ships. "All captains, this is Blake. Long-range sensors show the battle is still going on. We're going to push the engines harder. I want maximum burn from here to Kepler 442. Captain Foster's voice came back immediately. "Ryan, if we push too hard, we might burn out the drives before we get there. Then we better make sure we win this fight on the first try." Blake replied. The 5 human warships accelerated toward their destination, their engines glowing brighter as they pushed beyond safe limits. Behind them, Earth was just a distant memory. Ahead of them waited a battle that would decide the fate of an entire species and determine humanity's place in the galaxy. Dr. Vasquez worked through the night, trying to learn everything she could about their enemies. Tony Kim checked and rechecked every weapon system. Colonel Price drilled her Marines until they could fight blindfolded. And Captain Blake stared at the star charts, planning a battle against an enemy he had never seen. In 2 weeks, they would find out if Earth's warships were strong enough to stand against the darkness between the stars. The asteroid field around the Kepler system was larger than anything the human fleet had ever seen. Millions of rocks drifted through space, some as small as cars and others the size of mountains. It was the perfect place to hide, and that's exactly what the surviving Valhari had done. Captain Blake ordered his ships to reduce speed as they entered the field. The last thing they needed was to crash into a space rock after traveling 1,400 light-years to get here. Navigation Officer Lucy Chun worked carefully to guide the fleet through the maze of floating debris. "Captain, I'm picking up artificial signals from deeper in the field," Chun reported. "Someone's out there." Blake nodded. "Open a communication channel. Use the same mathematical patterns the Valhari sent in their distress call." The response came quickly. A series of numbers and equations, followed by what sounded like excited chattering in an alien language. Dr. Vasquez had been studying Valhari language patterns for weeks, and she was ready. "They're asking who we are," she translated from her station. "They want to know if we're more Dominion forces." "Tell them we're from Earth," Blake said. "Tell them we received their distress call and we came to help." The alien chatter that came back was even more excited. Dr. Vasquez listened carefully, her computer helping to translate the rapid speech. "Captain, they can't believe we're here. They say no one has ever traveled this far to help strangers before." A new voice came over the communication system, speaking slower and more clearly. Dr. Vasquez worked to translate in real time. "This is Navigation Master Zethka of the Valhari Defense Fleet. We are honored that beings from distant Earth have come to our aid. Please follow our signal to the hidden base." The human fleet followed a weak radio beacon deeper into the asteroid field. After an hour of careful flying, they found what they were looking for. Hidden inside a massive hollowed-out asteroid was a Valhari base. Ships unlike anything humans had ever seen were docked to the rocky walls. The Valhari vessels were beautiful in their own way. They looked more like pieces of art than warships, with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to glow with their own light. But Blake could see they were damaged. Burn marks and holes showed that these ships had been in battles they were not designed to fight. "Captain, the Valhari are requesting permission to come aboard," Dr. Vasquez reported. "They want to meet U.S. face-to-face." Blake looked around his bridge. His crew was nervous but ready. This would be humanity's first meeting with an alien species, and it was happening in the middle of a war zone. "Grant permission. Have them dock in Shuttle Bay 2. Dr. Vasquez, you're with me. Colonel Price, bring a security team but keep weapons lowered. We don't want to scare our new allies." The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and humanity got its first look at the Valhari. They were tall and graceful, standing nearly 7 feet high, but moving with an elegance that made them seem to float rather than walk. Their skin was pale blue-gray, and crystalline patches on their faces and hands glowed softly with changing colors. The lead Valhari had 4 arms instead of 2, and wore what looked like a robe made of light itself. The crystal patches on his face pulsed with warm golden colors as he approached Captain Blake. "I am Navigation Master Zethka," the alien said through a translation device. "On behalf of all Valhari, I thank you for answering our call. We had given up hope that anyone would come." Blake stepped forward and offered his hand in greeting. Zethka looked confused for a moment, then reached out with one of his 4 hands to shake it. The crystal patches on his face brightened with what Dr. Vasquez recognized as happiness. "We came as soon as we got your message," Blake said. "Tell us about the situation. How bad is it?" The joy faded from Zethka's crystals, replaced by darker colors that spoke of fear and sadness. "Very bad, Captain Blake. The Dominion fleet has been bombarding our homeworld for many days. Our surface cities are gone. Millions of our people are dead. Those who remain are hiding in underground shelters." Dr. Vasquez asked the question that had been bothering her. "Navigation Master, your ships are beautiful, but they don't seem designed for war. How have you been fighting the Dominion?" Zethka's crystals flickered with what looked like shame. "We are not fighters, Dr. Vasquez. The Velhari have never made weapons of war. We believe that intelligent beings could solve all problems through peaceful discussion. We were wrong." Colonel Price spoke up. "What can you tell us about the enemy? How many ships? What kind of weapons?" The crystals on Zethka's face turned dark red with fear. "The Dominion fleet has over 300 vessels. They are not built like our ships or yours. They appear to be grown rather than constructed. Like living creatures made of metal and hatred." Blake felt his stomach sink. 300 enemy ships against 5 human vessels. The odds were terrible. But they had come too far to give up now. "What about their weapons and tactics?" "They use biological warfare," Zethka explained. "Poisonous gases, diseases, creatures that eat through whole metal. They also have energy weapons that can destroy a city in minutes. But Captain Blake, there's something else you must know. The Dominion does not just kill. They consume. They take everything useful from a world and leave it dead and empty." Dr. Vasquez was recording everything on her tablet. "How many worlds have they destroyed?" 6 civilizations completely gone," Zethka replied sadly. "Billions of lives lost. We were told they would give our people one more day to surrender. If we refuse, they will kill everyone on the planet's surface." Commander Kevin Park, the fleet's tactical analyst, had been studying readings from the Dominion ships on his scanner. "Captain, I'm seeing something interesting. These bioships seem to move in patterns, like a flock of birds. They might be controlled by some kind of central command." Blake looked at the data Park was showing him. "If we could disrupt that command structure, the smaller ships might become confused," Park finished. "It's worth considering, sir." Zethka watched the humans discussing strategy with amazement. His crystals pulsed with colors Dr. Vasquez was learning to recognize as curiosity and hope. "Your species thinks like warriors," he observed. "You see possibilities for victory where we see only defeat." "That's because Earth taught us to fight," Blake replied grimly. "Our world is dangerous. We've been fighting wars for thousands of years, not because we wanted to, but because we had to learn how to survive." "A death world," Zethka whispered, using a term from the Velhari language that Dr. Vasquez didn't recognize. "What does that mean?" she asked. "A world so dangerous that only the strongest, smartest, and most determined beings can survive there." Zethka explained. "We thought such worlds were myths. But looking at your warships and your people, I see that myths can be real." Blake turned to his officers. "How long before the Dominion deadline?" 18 hours, Captain, Chun reported. "Then we don't have time to wait." "Navigation Master Zethka, we need detailed information about the Dominion fleet positions, their command ship, and the best way to approach without being detected." The Velhari's crystals pulsed with rapidly changing colors that Dr. Vasquez realized were excitement and disbelief mixed together. "Captain Blake, you have 5 ships against 300. This is not a battle you can win." Blake smiled, and there was something in that expression that made even the peaceful Velhari understand why Earth was called a death world. "Navigation Master, you've never seen humans fight before. We didn't come all this way to lose." For the next several hours, the humans and Velhari worked together to plan an attack that seemed impossible. But as Zethka watched these strange beings from the distant world called Earth, he began to believe that maybe, just maybe, impossible was something. Humans specialized in making possible. The battle plan was simple because it had to be. 5 human ships against 300 alien bioships meant there was no room for complicated tactics. Captain Blake stood on the bridge of the U.S. Defiance, watching the tactical display show the enemy fleet positions around the Valhari homeworld. "All ships, this is Blake," he said into the communication system. "Remember the plan. We hit them fast and hard. Target the big command ship first. If we can take out their central control, the smaller ships might get confused." Captain Foster's voice came back from the Guardian. "Ready to go, Ryan. My guns are hot and my crew is ready." Captain Rivera checked in from the Retribution. "We'll follow your lead, Blake. Time to show these aliens what humans can do." The 2 destroyer captains, Walsh and Brooks, confirmed they were ready. Their smaller ships would be the most vulnerable, but they were also the fastest and could hit targets the bigger ships might miss. Dr. Vasquez had stayed on the Valhari base with Navigation Master Zethka to coordinate with the surviving alien ships. "Captain, the Valhari ships will create a distraction on the far side of the planet. It's not much, but it might draw some enemy attention away from you." Blake nodded. "Every little bit helps, Doc. Zethka, tell your people to stay safe. We'll handle the heavy fighting." The human fleet moved out of the asteroid field in formation. The Defiance led the way, with the Guardian and Retribution flanking it on both sides. The lightning and thunder spread out wider, ready to attack from different angles. As they approached the planet, they got their first real look at the Dominion fleet. The bioships were unlike anything in human experience. They looked like huge sea creatures made of dark metal, with organic curves and surfaces that seemed to pulse with their own life. Some were the size of city blocks. Others were as big as mountains. "My God," whispered Navigation Officer Chun. "They really do look alive." The largest bioship floated near the planet like a small moon. Its surface was covered with what looked like eyes and tentacles, and energy weapons that glowed with sickly green light. This had to be the Harvester's command ship. "All ships, attack pattern Alpha," Blake ordered. "Full burn toward the command ship. Fire everything we have." The human warships accelerated toward the Dominion fleet at maximum speed. For a few moments, the aliens didn't seem to notice them. The bioships continued their orbital bombardment of the planet below, pouring deadly energy into the underground shelters where the Valhari were hiding. Then the lightning opened fire. Captain Walsh's destroyer unleashed a full spread of railgun rounds and plasma bolts at the nearest bioship. The alien vessel was 3 times the size of the human destroyer, but it had never faced weapons designed on a Deathworld. The railgun rounds punched through its hull like bullets through paper. The bioship twisted in space, green fluid leaking from the holes in its body. It tried to turn toward the lightning, but Captain Walsh was already moving, his ship dancing through space like a fighter rather than a warship. The rest of the Dominion fleet finally noticed the new threat. Dozens of bioships began turning toward the human vessels, their organic weapons charging with deadly energy. But they were too slow. Captain Rivera's Retribution came in from the side, all guns blazing. His heavy plasma cannons tore through bioship after bioship, leaving trails of destruction in space. The aliens had never faced focused firepower like this before. Their ships were designed to overwhelm peaceful opponents with numbers, not to fight enemies who could match their strength. "Direct hit on Target 7, called Weapons Officer Martinez from the Retribution. Target is breaking apart." Captain Foster's Guardian was having similar success. Her ship's railguns were designed to punch through asteroid armor, and the bioships couldn't stand up to that kind of punishment. But the aliens were learning fast. A group of bioships began coordinating their attacks, focusing their energy weapons on the Guardian. Green beams of deadly radiation lanced through space, and Foster had to use all her piloting skills to avoid being hit. "Guardian taking fire," she reported. "These things are starting to work together." That's when the smaller alien ships attacked. Creatures the size of fighter jets began pouring out of the larger bioships, swarming toward the human fleet like angry insects. They moved fast and shot some kind of acid that could eat through metal. "Incoming fighters," warned Sensor Officer Wells. "Hundreds of them." Colonel Price's Marines were ready. As the alien fighters tried to attach themselves to the human ships, the Marines used the point defense guns to shoot them down. But there were so many of them that some got through. Lieutenant Commander Kim watched his screens as alien biofighters began attaching themselves to the Defiance's hull. "Captain, they're trying to burn through the armor. If they get inside... Marine teams to hull breach positions," Blake ordered. "Colonel Price, your people are up." The battle became a nightmare of space combat and boarding actions. Outside, the human warships continued their attack on the bioship fleet, their weapons cutting through alien vessels like knives through flesh. Inside, Marines fought hand-to-hand with biosoldiers that looked like insects made of metal and hate. Sergeant Thompson led his squad through the corridors of the Defiance, hunting the aliens that had broken through the hull. The biosoldiers were fast and strong, but they had never fought humans before. Thompson's men used their training and superior weapons to cut down the invaders one by one. "Corridor 7 clear," Thompson reported. "These things don't like our bullets much." The tide of battle began to turn when Commander Park's analysis proved correct. The bioships were controlled by some kind of central command system, and that system was located on the massive command vessel near the planet. "All ships, concentrate fire on the command ship," Blake ordered. "If we can take it out, the rest might fall apart." The 5 human warships focused their attack on the Harvester's flagship. Railgun rounds and plasma bolts hammered the massive bioship from all sides. The alien vessel tried to defend itself, but it was designed to bombard planets, not fight warships. Captain Brooks Thunder made the final attack run. Her destroyer was badly damaged, with hull breaches on 3 decks and half her weapons offline. But she kept flying, kept fighting, because that's what humans did. "This is for every world you destroyed," Brooks said as she fired her last plasma. Torpedo. The torpedo struck the command ship's central nerve cluster. The massive bioship convulsed like a dying animal, its organic systems failing all at once. The smaller ships around it began to drift aimlessly, their coordination broken. "The command ship is down," Park reported. "And look at the others. They're confused, attacking each other." Blake watched as the Dominion fleet fell apart. Without central control, the bioships turned on each other or simply stopped fighting. Some tried to flee, but the human ships were faster and more maneuverable. Battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the space around the Valhari homeworld was filled with the wreckage of the Dominion fleet. The few bioships that survived were fleeing toward deep space, their invasion broken. "All ships report," Blake called. One by one, his captains checked in. The Guardian had taken heavy damage but was still flying. The Retribution had lost some weapons but was intact. The Lightning was in good shape, and the Thunder was barely holding together but still operational. "Casualties?" Blake asked. 17 wounded, 3 dead, Colonel Price reported. "The bio-soldiers were tough, but we were tougher." Blake looked at the tactical display, now showing a clear space around the Valhari planet. They had done it. 5 human ships had defeated a fleet of 300 alien invaders. But the cost had been high, and the hardest part was still to come. The Harvester's personal ship was trying to escape. The Harvester's escape ship was unlike the other bioships, where the fleet vessels looked like sea creatures. This one resembled a massive spider made of black metal and pulsing veins. It was trying to reach the edge of the system where it could jump to safety, and warn other Dominion fleets about the humans. Captain Blake couldn't let that happen. Thunder, can you intercept? Blake asked over the communication channel. Captain Brooks looked at her damaged ship status. Half her engines were offline and her weapons were nearly dead, but the Thunder was still the fastest ship in the fleet. I can catch it, but I don't know if I can stop it. Do what you can, Blake replied. The rest of us are coming to help. The Thunder limped through space after the fleeing command ship, pushing her damaged engines beyond safe limits. Brooks knew she was asking too much of her ship, but she also knew that letting the Harvester escape would doom other worlds to the same fate as the Valhari had almost suffered. Dr. Vasquez was monitoring the alien communications from the Valhari base. Her translation computer was working overtime to decode the panicked messages coming from the Harvester ship. Captain Blake, the Harvester is sending out distress calls to other Dominion fleets. If those messages get through ... Understood. Doc, Blake said grimly. He opened the channel to all ships. Maximum burn, everyone. We end this here and now. The chase lasted an hour. The Harvester's ship was fast, but it was also massive and damaged from the battle. The Thunder slowly gained ground, her crew working miracles to keep the engines running. Behind them, the other 4 human ships followed as quickly as their own battle damage would allow. Captain Brooks finally got within weapons range when the Harvester's ship was only minutes away from the jump point. She had 2 working plasma cannons and a handful of railgun rounds left. It would have to be enough. This is Thunder, she reported. Beginning attack run. The Thunder's remaining weapons lit up the darkness of space. Plasma bolts and railgun rounds hammered into the Harvester's ship, tearing holes in its organic hull. But the alien vessel was too big to kill with what little firepower Brooks had left. The Harvester's ship turned to fight back. Energy weapons that could level cities focused on the small human destroyer. Brooks threw her ship into evasive maneuvers, but the Thunder was too damaged to dodge for long. Hull breach on Deck 4, reported her damage control officer. We're losing atmosphere. Seal it off, Brooks ordered. Keep us flying. That's when the rest of the human fleet arrived. They used Defiance, Guardian, and Retribution came in firing everything they had. The Lightning joined the Thunder in attacking from multiple angles. The Harvester's ship found itself surrounded by 5 human warships, all pouring their remaining firepower into its hull. But the alien commander wasn't finished. Dr. Vasquez detected something new in the communications. Captain, the Harvester is trying to activate some kind of self-destruct system. It wants to take you all with it. Commander Park was analyzing the energy readings from the alien ship. It's overloading its main power core. If that thing explodes, it'll take out everything within 1,000 kilometers. Blake made a decision that would be talked about for generations. All ships, emergency retreat. Get clear of the blast zone. What about you? Captain Foster asked from the Guardian. Blake looked at his crew. They were tired, battle-worn, but still ready to fight. We're going to stop it from exploding. Captain, that's suicide, protested Navigation Officer Chun. Maybe, Blake replied. But if we don't try, that thing will escape and warn the rest of the Dominion about Earth. How many human worlds will die because we let it go? The Defiance accelerated toward the Harvester's ship instead of away from it. Blake's crew worked with desperate efficiency, targeting the alien vessel's power core with surgical precision. They had one chance to disrupt the overload before it reached critical mass. Lieutenant Commander Kim rerouted power from life support to the weapon systems. Guns are charged, Captain. But we'll have to get really close to punch through to the core. How close? Blake asked. Close enough to shake hands, Kim replied grimly. The Defiance dove toward the massive alien ship like a fighter attacking a battleship. The Harvester's defensive weapons tried to stop them, but Blake's crew had learned the alien patterns during the battle. They weaved through the energy beams and acid sprays with skill born of desperation. At the last possible moment, Kim fired every weapon the ship had left. The concentrated barrage punched through the harvester's hull and struck the overloading power core. Instead of a massive explosion that would have destroyed the human fleet, the alien ship's power systems simply died. The harvester's ship went dark and began drifting dead in space. "Target neutralized," Blake reported, his voice shaky with relief. "The threat is over, but they weren't done yet." Colonel Price led a boarding party onto the alien ship to capture the harvester itself. What they found was a creature that looked like a cross between an octopus and a spider, with dozens of eyes and tentacles covered in metal implants. The harvester was still alive, connected to its ship through biological cables. When it saw the humans, it spoke through a translation device in a voice like grinding metal. "You are the species from the small blue world," it said. "We underestimated you. We will not make that mistake again." "There won't be an again," Price replied. "You're going to tell us about every other Dominion fleet out there, and then you're going to help us stop them." The harvester's many eyes focused on the human colonel with something that might have been respect. "Your species is more dangerous than we thought. Perhaps we can reach an understanding." 3 days later, the human fleet was in orbit around the Velhari homeworld. The planet's surface was scarred from the bombardment, but the underground cities had survived. Millions of Velhari were alive because 5 human ships had answered their call for help. Navigation. Master Zethka came aboard the Defiance for the final meeting. His crystal patches glowed with colors that Dr. Vasquez now knew meant deep gratitude and friendship. "Captain Blake, my people want to offer you anything we have," Zethka said. "Our technology, our knowledge, our friendship. How can we repay what you have done?" Blake thought about it for a moment. "Help us protect other worlds. The Dominion has more fleets out there, and they'll keep destroying civilizations until someone stops them. You want us to become warriors like you?" Zethka asked, his crystals flickering with uncertainty. "No," Blake replied. "We want you to remain who you are. But we also want you to help us build something new. An alliance of worlds that can stand together against threats like the Dominion." Dr. Vasquez had been working with Velhari scientists to combine human and alien technology. The Velhari have incredible navigation systems and energy manipulation abilities. Combined with our weapons and tactics, we could build ships that are both peaceful and powerful. Admiral Knox's voice came over the long-range communication system. "From Earth. Captain Blake, the President wants to know what your recommendation is for our next steps." Blake looked around the bridge at his crew, then at Zethka and the other Velhari representatives. "Admiral, I recommend we establish Earth's first interstellar embassy right here. And I recommend we start building a joint fleet with our new allies. The galaxy is a big place, and there are probably other species out there who need help." 6 months later, the first joint human Velhari ships rolled out of the construction yards in the Kepler system. They combined the elegance of Velhari design with the firepower of human weapons. Dr. Martinez, who had first heard the Velhari distress call, became Earth's first ambassador to an alien species. The Harvester, imprisoned but cooperative, provided information about other Dominion fleets threatening the galaxy. Armed with this knowledge, the new alliance began planning rescue missions to other endangered worlds. Captain Blake stood on the bridge of the new ship USVDF Harmony, watching construction begin on a space station that would serve as headquarters for the Galactic Defense Alliance. The Velhari had taught humans about peaceful cooperation. Humans had taught the Velhari about necessary strength. Together, they were becoming something neither species could have achieved alone. "Captain," reported Communications Officer Chen, "we're receiving another distress call. This one is from the Rigel system. A species called the Keth are under attack." Blake smiled. It was the same smile that had convinced Zethka that humans specialized in making the impossible possible. Set course for Rigel. Let's go save some more lives. The ships of the Alliance jumped into hyperspace, carrying the promise that no civilization would have to face extinction alone. When someone sent out a call for help across the dark between the stars, Earth and her allies would be listening, and they would come.